Okay, so today we will continue and complete SDK-based Android virtual device. I want to finish demonstration of creating Android virtual device using SDK pack. It's kind of old pack. Java software development kit. You uploaded more recent pack, but it should work as well. So let's see how we can create Android virtual device. So this is, as you know already, part of Greybox testing. It's very important for those of you um, who want to present your ability to do Greybox testing, or it would be added value if you put this experience on your resume. For those of you who don't want or don't pursue Greybox testing, you can I would suggest not to put this experience on your resume to avoid questions you may be not comfortable with. But I think that in general, I would suggest you to put your probably limited but still required and very valuable experience dealing with Android virtual devices. It's true that Android virtual devices not are using now widely, I would say. In the past it was more required skills, but overall it's important, not maybe that they need Android virtual device, but each employer understands that if you had experience with Android virtual device, it's really added value, and you know what is behind of the black box testing, because gray box testing requires understanding of, as you know, according to definition, understanding of underlying application structure and the underlying environment. So this is really very good piece of experience. So I'm planning to create Android virtual device, and after that we will continue our interview preparation, and I'm planning to share a number of questions. Some questions I put on your document and you can read it, and I would suggest to work with these questions, because these questions are project specific. When we start this portion or this topic of our session today, I will explain in details. And after that, it will be, yes, next time I'm planning to review a couple of questions you're supposed to work on. And after that, as I promised, the remaining, I think at least 2 or 2.5 sessions, I will run SQL for you. I mean, in live, because I know that you have videos, recorded videos, but I decided that we have a couple of sessions and we can do it online, and I will be able to explain probably some points of database basics, which is really very important, and particularly for students who live and search for a job on East Coast. For East Coast, database is very valuable experience and almost always required. So if you have particular questions, or probably you have some experience already associated with SQL questions or database related questions, we can consider them and probably work on them. So this is the plan for remaining 3 sessions. And I suggest to start our Android virtual device. So first of all, tell me please, who managed to create at least a single Android virtual device using step-by-step installation? Because many students can do it, at least from my experience working at school. It takes some time, but basically many students successfully finished all steps of creating Android virtual devices, and after that installing APK executable file for our application. So I don't see any replies. It's okay. It's all right. It's okay because I understand you're overloaded with other exercises and practices. So I will give you demo how to do that, and you will probably better understand how it works. So once you created Android Virtual Device Manager, as we discussed before, this is Android Device Manager. And steps to create Android Device Manager are clearly defined, and usually there are no any issues creating Android Virtual Device Manager. Android Virtual Device Manager. Also, you need to have applications we are going to install today. I will try to install both application Event Easy Go APK and Beam APK. It's application I used for demonstration, and you're a little bit familiar with this application. So I have Beam APK and Event Easy Go APK, both APK files located under Android SDK Windows and platform tools directory. This is very important to remember, that you need to have applications you want to install on Android virtual device located within platform tool directory, because by default application ADB executable, you can see this application which will be running and to participate or in process. They use application name by default, meaning that this application are located within the same directory where this ADB executable file is located. So that's why this is very simple explanation. So ADB executable and our mobile application executable files, APK, and again APK stands for Android not programming, packaging kit, Android packaging kit, packaging because it implies it includes libraries, APIs from Android libraries. So this is already pack, Android packaging kit. So both mobile applications executable files located within the same directory where ADB executable file is located, which we are going to use. So we are all ready, and yes, you remember how to open command prompt. So you need to click shift key on your keyboard, and after that click right, no, something wrong, right, no, probably left, shift and Yes, open command window here. So when you click it here, you will get command prompt, which is already ready to run all the applications from this directory. It's convenient way to get to this directory. Surely you can open this command prompt from using standard way, and in this case you need to change directory, and this directory should be exact directory we already talked about, directory when your ADB executable application is located. So right now this command prompt is ready. I have two of them, that's why I closed this previous one. Also, once you open this command prompt, I would suggest to make sure that we don't have any devices yet running in our Windows environment. It's very simple ADB command. You need just to remember, or just for examples, to keep it for examples, for your interview examples, basically two commands. One ADB command, and don't forget that ADB stands for Android Debugging Bridge. Android Debugging Bridge. So ADB command, it's about a little bit more than 12, a dozen of command, and it's not a problem. It seems to me I gave you a link to ADB commands, but I don't suggest to memorize many ADB commands. I would suggest to remember at least two commands which you used, and you understand how these commands work. So ADB devices or device, it doesn't matter, command would show all real devices. Do you remember when I touched my Android using USB connectivity and I issued ADB devices command? System showed me that my device was attached. Right now you can see that there is no, I hope you can see what is written here, that list of devices attached, and there are no any devices. No any devices. I didn't attach my physical device, and we haven't started yet our Android virtual device. It's because we need to build this Android virtual device before before we start. After we build it and started and issue this command again, this device should be on the list. This is what we are going to do. So now you understand where we are, and now let's create, this is already a list of Android virtual devices I created in the past. Now I want to create new Android virtual device for you from scratch. So we click create. Yeah, okay, yes, it may be really slow, guys. Now we need, let's put any name for our Android virtual device. Let's ADB for online. For online. Next would be we need to pick up device we are going to emulate. As you understand, Android virtual device, not ADB, ADB, Android virtual device, Android virtual device. We are going to emulate Nexus 7, as far as I remember, according to our pack. Okay, Nexus 1. Nexus 1. Cannot see it. Yes, this one. I pick up particular device because I know that at least Android virtual device can be created for this environment, because not all the environment successfully can be emulated. So not always, sometimes Android virtual device procedure fails for some reason because of probably some incompleteness of APIs to create a particular device. As I explained to you in the very beginning, that each mobile environment may be slightly different, and it depends on hardware or maker of hardware, because each piece of hardware may be associated with additional drivers, additional software, and it may be customized, or it may be not belong to the core Android core system, and that's why not each device can be successfully created without software additions. I know at least for this environment we have sufficient software pack, and we are using API pack 16. And we are going to create pretty much old Android version 4.1.2. Yes, now it's old. I told you that I created my environment a couple of years ago. I need to update it. So that's why you may have API level OPEX up to 22, probably 23, and for Android version 5. I'm not sure that you have pack for a Android 6, which is the latest version of Android operational system, is available for Android virtual devices, but at least Android version 5 already available, so you can try it. I don't have API packs for Android version 5, only this one. We are going to create hardware keyboard on our Android virtual device, and skin of our emulator, because emulator, you understand, it's not a physical Android device, it will be emulator of physical device, skin with dynamic hardware controls. We don't need camera, and actually it seems to me everything is all okay, but for some reason we missed CPU. I know that there are different type of CPUs, as you understand, and again, I didn't experiment or didn't try to create a variety of Android virtual devices for different CPUs, but I do know from my previous experience with emulators that this CPU IRM does work. You can see that all my Android virtual devices are already created. They all of this ARM type of CPU. So I don't want to experiment today. And now you can see GUI works very well. Do you remember before I pick up all the valid attributes of our Android virtual device, OK button wasn't activated. So now you understand that this is a really good, smart product. So they will application software validates, and this application I am talking about, it's Android Virtual Device Manager, because this is exactly Android Virtual Device Manager would create Android Virtual Device. And Android Virtual Device Manager application software is very smart, and it validates each attribute of our Android Virtual Device, and when everything is valid, OK button gets activated. I want to let you know, because sometimes it's very frustrating situation when you provide Android Virtual Device name. Make sure that you use underscore. It would not work for dash. So this is very strange valid. Dash is not valid, and underscore needs to be used. I do understand the reason for this feature, because this is Java, and for Java and for Unix actually environment, we always use underscore. And dash is not valid for variables, for software variables, within Unix environment and Java environment. So this is very important to remember, because otherwise you will be frustrated and would not understand why your OK button is not activated, meaning that something is invalid or wrong. So once you create or define all these attributes, as you can see it, OK is activated, and I click OK button, and hopefully, yes, and start working, but it takes some time. Yes, you can see it's pretty much fast, but this is only Android Virtual Device. When we start Android Virtual Device, it will take additional time to start it. So we have created Android Virtual Device for online. This is on the top of our of my list. It's identical to previously created Android Virtual Device. Now I highlight it, and I want to start. I click start. So first time I clicked created. Now I want to start it. So I clicked start, and you can see that the process launching start to launch the device, and starting emulator for Android Virtual Device, and name of our Android Android Virtual Device. We gave this a name, and let's wait till it will be created. It will take some time. While let me check. Okay, it looks, yes, okay, it showed already. Yes, you can see how gradually Android device, virtual device, virtual meaning that this is all device, it's built by the means of software. So this is all software. Your hardware, physical device starts with hardware, as we discussed, but this is all software. And this process is slow. It's still building the device, because we can see now only the skin of this device. It will take some time to see here Android and number of buttons, and we will get access to the environment of our virtual device on our emulator. So this is, guys, emulator. Let me remind you, while it works, still works, why it's so important, and what is the reason of creating multiple Android virtual device. I explain the reason behind creating Android virtual devices last time, when it was more probably easy to understand, when I used Genymotion application with nice GUI, and you could realize that we created a number of Android virtual devices using Genymotion application. And why we need them? We discussed it last time as well, and I'm going to repeat it again because it's easier. Presumably, it's more effective process of creating virtual devices running different operational Android operational systems, version actually of operational system to test compatibility. Basically, we are using Android virtual devices for compatibility testing because you know now by first-hand experience that the application, if application is not compatible with mobile environment, mobile device environment, and this device may be physical or it may be virtual device. And if application is not compatible, it would not be successfully installed or would crash all the time if some level of incompatibility occurred. So it's a convenient way of conducting compatibility testing using virtual devices instead of physical devices, because you understand there is a variety, huge variety of physical devices, and it's quite tedious job. It would take a lot of resources to make sure that application is compatible with variety of different environments. It's not that easy, simple to do or deal with Android virtual devices, but at least it's considered to be probably better approach or better scenario. You see that unfortunately application Android virtual device doesn't finish, and it happens unfortunately during the session because there is I'm running my webinar software. It looks that my computer doesn't have enough power, but basically it's not that important. I can stop it and show you how it's supposed to look like. Using my devices I successfully created when my webinar software is not my impression is that it's a little bit got stuck and I don't want to spend so much time. Let me check where we are. Oh, I hope we still can get at least something. Yes, it's still running. Yes, guys. I hope you trust me that eventually this Android virtual device supposed to be successfully built, and we still don't have any. Let me run ADB command to see if this device already no, you see it's still right, it's still building. That's why we got this information that the process is still not finished or complete. That's why I'm going to I cannot, we cannot wait anymore. Let me finish this or kill this process, and we are going to work with virtual devices previously created. Let's say, I don't remember. So I created for online class. And let's start it. Oh. You see, it's always the situation. Everything works fine when I prepare for the session, but whenever I try to demonstrate, things happen or goes wrong. So what? Okay, I'm going to start it over. Okay, run. So it's all environment, as you can see, kind of fragile and not always works nicely. And I cannot even start Android Virtual Device Manager. Oh no, it's fine. Okay. Okay, so this is Android Virtual Device Manager. And since I stopped process which didn't finish gracefully, nicely, that's why probably I could not start any other device. Let's start this. Yes, launch. Yeah, it's process is running, but I hope it would open. If not, we will continue because I cannot demonstrate or spend all our session time to demonstrate it. All right, so let's assume and give it some time to complete, and I would let me continue with interview questions, and when Android Virtual Device gets built, we'll get back to it. Okay, so let's assume that we successfully created Android Virtual Device, and as you remember that Android Virtual Device, it's type of emulator which allows to create software emulation of our mobile physical devices, as you understand. And as I already mentioned, that this is widely being used for compatibility testing. Instead of physical devices, we use emulators and variety of different emulators. So again, when I demonstrated Genymotion process last time, I believe it was more nice demonstration and easy to understand. This is value of Genymotion application, but you understand that's why it's not free. But at least it's much easier to deal and create new Android virtual devices, and this is really a very good tool. This is Android Virtual Device, SDK-based Android Virtual Device, or manual way of creating virtual devices is more older or old-fashioned, but it has beauty of this that it's free. Yes, it's still running, and I'm not sure that we can finally see that finished. So let's talk about interview questions. Guys, what happens during interview? That's true that there may be different variety of interviews. There is no way to get 100% prepared for any question you may have during your interview. But 50% questions sometimes, for sure, minimal 50% based on statistics I collect from, based on feedback from students like you are, from online, and students in our school. We know that 50% questions sometimes limited to very simple, at least couple of questions associated or related with your previous experience, Usually it's question such as explain, give me example of a project from your previous experience, from your previous job. So tell me about your project or your testing experience working on, in our case, mobile application. Or they would ask you, do you have experience testing mobile application? And if your answer is yes, they would ask you to describe the project. And that's why, and it may be very generic question, as I told you last time, and I hope you created notes I suggested. It would be very helpful to keep your description structured. Otherwise, you will be jumping from one point of your experience to another, which would not be very informative probably and clear to understand. But sometimes it's what we discussed last time. But sometimes questions are more specific, still related to your previous experience, because they really don't care that much about definitions. Usually companies or your potential employers want to understand the scope of your previous experience, of type of previous experience, to evaluate as to how much or how little skills you have they need, because they do know what they are looking for. This is the advantage. So you need to present your experience in such a way that to show that actually you have experience, and also you're flexible enough to readjust and adjust your experience for new requirements, for new environments, to test new applications. So you need to be kind of positive and willing to adjust and learn additional knowledge, because if you have some knowledge or experience, you would be willing to readjust or to another environment to test different applications. That's why you need to be prepared to answer more specific questions in addition to a general, not additional, because it depends. Some would ask generic question, other would ask specific question, like specific about the company from application, which is a rare case. About application, tell about application. By the way, there was a question from students regarding rivals or similar application, similar to our Event EasyGo application we tested during our online class. So first of all, what I must tell you that there are not that many rivals. I mean, in mobile application field. I know a couple of applications. First of all, don't forget that Facebook has very similar component or piece of application which would allow to create events of this social type of events within a particular circle. It almost, I compared this Facebook functionality covers 75% of Event Easy Go application, but Event Easy Go has this unique feature. I don't know if you like it or dislike it, doesn't matter by the way, but it still makes sense to mention that Event Easy Go has unique feature of ride sharing for created application, for created events. Also, the best way to look at arrivals when go to App Store or Play Store and look, usually they provide applications similar to this Event Easy Go or any application of your interest, and you can take a look at other applications. But don't forget, we have application eVite. It's very popular application. I know for sure that this application exists. It's a web version of this application. But I didn't check. It's not good. Yeah, I need to check it whether or not eVite mobile version already exists. If it does exist, you can check it out yourself. And if it does exist, I would suggest even to download, install, and take a look how eVite application works, mobile application works if it exists. I confirm it next time. Sorry, I don't know exactly whether or not it exists. Let's go next. So make sure that all bullets you are familiar and to you, and we did discuss each of those bullets, how to provide information associated with more specific question. How did you do, let's say, regression testing, and how did you executed test cases? How did you create bug reports? Which bug tracking system did you use? And so on and so on. There will be more specific questions. So how many bug tracking systems you're familiar with? In reality, you may be familiar only with Bugzilla, but again, and you're supposed to tell that. But even Jira, let's say Jira or any a couple of other. I worked with Mantis. It's not very well-known bug tracking system, but it's really very powerful, and honestly, I even like it much better. It seems to me a very good system. I like it more than Jira. So it depends. Bugzilla, by the way, is not it's really good professional bug tracking system. So don't be confused and shamed that you know only Bugzilla. Many companies, by the way, here, even Silicon Valley, using this free source Bugzilla system. A few examples of the bugs you found. Be prepared to answer this question. And overall, guys, be prepared to give example of bug reports you reported. Usually they are interested bugs you reported, not in general bug reports from your project, but bug reports you created. And that's why you need really to spend some time working on examples of bug reports. Even if you didn't report any bugs yet, you need probably to find a bug report which you really understand issue of this bug, and you need to readjust or refine this bug report or create it in a way which you would be comfortable with. So you're supposed to be very, very fluent, because if you created this bug report, you're confident with the issue you reported, and answer like, oh, I don't remember, I forgot, and so on. This is bad sign, and that's why I would suggest, guys, if you didn't actively test this application, you need now to spend extra time creating examples to present during interview, because based on the way how you structure your bug report and how you present this your bug, it would tell them a lot about your experience. A very popular question about challenges and achievements. I don't, first of all, I don't want to provide answers for all the questions, because if I do, you would use them, and it's bad thing. It would be really very bad situation if but since for our audience, because you're dispersed through the country, over the country, it's not that bad. But let's say for our area, when there are concentration of partner of school graduates, we are trying to not prepare our students in a quite identical way. You're supposed to be out of crowd. Your answers should demonstrate that you are different. That's why you need to spend your time, guys, to get prepared for interview and show that you're really different, that your answers are very different probably from answers of other candidates. That's why I will give you example of answers for all the questions I'm sharing with you, but only next time, not today, because you need to work finally, sometimes very hard, to get answers prepared for to demonstrate or use during interview. And your answers supposed to be very smart and unique. Next time I share my version of answers for these questions, because it's still important to make sure that your answer at least is in line with correct answer. Let me check. Oh, you see, it took time, but finally it's created, and this is how it looks. And I open this application, this Android virtual device, and this is this Android virtual device shows you not many applications, preloaded applications such as calendar. We discussed calendar is preloaded application. We can even open this calendar and it will be absolutely identical. Look and feel, everything will be identical to calendar we have on our physical devices. It just takes much more time. So we don't need this calendar, and I click home back, and you can see that both applications are already installed here. Beam application, you can see Beam application, right? And I want to put it on home page. Oh, this is, by the way, I start Beam application, and you can see that it starts. It doesn't crash, and Beam application does work on emulator, because this Beam application has somewhat limited functionality. It's a phone application, and requirements for environment is kind of limited. So you can see that this is registration page, and actually you have this application. You can try to register using Android virtual device. At least I succeeded. I was successfully registered from Android virtual device. By the way, this is a bug, personal settings. It's misleading. It's wrong. Header for the page. This is registration page. So this is how you can see finally that application, mobile application, successfully installed and started and works on Android virtual device, which is not very Event Easy Go application doesn't work that nicely on Android virtual device. Look what happens. So this is Event Easy Go, and I click it to start, and look what happens. It does, yes, it starts, and what happens? What did happen? What do you think? What do you think? It crashes. It's crashes all the time. It doesn't work on Android virtual device, at least Android virtual device of configuration I created. So it looks at it starting. Oh, sometimes, oh, okay, you even, you've seen even a message that Event Easy Go stopped working. So this is constant crashes. Application crashes on the start. Application crashes on the start. So it means that compatibility testing failed on at least this environment. On this environment, it would be a report that usually it's just a spreadsheet, and there are different environments, and result of compatibility testing or different type of testing if needed on different environments. So for this environment, you remember Android Virtual Device, it's SDK Pack 16 compatibility. I believe that it's compatibility issue because application crashes on start. Usually it's a sign of very severe incompatibility. So this is how it works for Android virtual device. Still, unfortunately, I could not, you can see now that a system would show this device, ADB device, but it still shows a lot of stuff. Okay, so this is all what I can show you, but at least you can see that there is a proof that Android virtual device has two applications installed. One application is all fine and compatible with Android virtual device environment. Another application crashes. It's replicable. It's replication of crashes all the time. It's constantly crashes on start, which proves incompatibility. So that's what I can show, and I want to finish with this and close it. So this is what I can tell you about Android virtual devices as a gray box testing. It's your choice as whether you're going to present your experience and provide some limited ability to work with Android virtual devices or not. We already discussed this topic, and I don't want repetition of it. So let's get back to our interview questions. So what is important here? When you start working on your answers for those questions, I highlighted a couple of keywords for each question. So write a functional test case. As you remember, test case may be different. Test case may require different testing technique. You remember that testing technique is divided or classified as functional and non-functional. So if a question is write a functional test case, make sure that you create or you have example of functional test case, because otherwise you may probably, if you don't pay attention what what type of test case you need to create, you can create probably GUI test case or mobile test case specific test, which is not necessarily functional. So make sure that you do know and can differentiate and create functional test case from your project for our application. So please try to do that. The next question keyword is application feature. Application feature or and functionality. Sometimes it's really for newcomers or beginners, it's difficult to differentiate. What is the difference between application feature, application function? Guys, I told you probably already a couple of times, there is no much difference. It's just application feature may include a couple of functions, because functions usually it's more technical term. If question, this is I usually what I tell my students, that listen to language during interview. If a person would ask you about application feature, it means that you're talking with not technical person. It may be business analyst or product manager or somebody who is not technical, because technical people or programmers, technical guys, they would use functions. They would not use feature language. So give example of application feature. They just want to hear and to listen to you when you give an example of application feature, because it may be really important based some evaluation based on your answer. So give example of the feature. Make sure that you have a couple of examples of application feature. So this is very good question, or I would say quiz for you, to make sure that you completing our project successfully, at least ready in terms of readiness for your interview questions. What is your regression testing strategy for the project? What was your regression testing strategy? Or sometimes different questions, or sometimes clarification of the same question. Give a list of activities in order of the execution. So do you remember, this is exactly how I provided you with strategy for regression testing, that for each new release, you started according to your project, testing process. For each new release, you had a list of activities to complete for each new release. First activity was, do you remember? I hope it was what? Yes, correct. Smoke test or build verification test. Sometimes there is another term for this test, which is build acceptance. It depends on particular company. Each company uses their own definition. I would suggest to use a single definition, otherwise it would be kind of bookish. Use definition meaning that which you used while you worked on the project. When on the project only one term is being used. Usually we refer it a smoke test or build verification, period. So use only one. Don't provide all three, because this is a bad sign. It means that you use all possible references to the smoke test, which is not good sign. Tell me how you performed regression testing. This question about means how you performed, because you understand that regression testing being retesting may be performed in different way. You may, if you, it depends on your assignment, your settings, or whatever. At least for our project, I want to remind you that you performed regression testing by retesting, re-executing test cases if they exist. And actually for two components, you remember, we do have test cases, and regression testing regression testing required re-execution of existing test cases for scope identified by your supervisor, because you remember that challenge for regression testing, it's scope of retesting. So you need to say that I re-executed test cases for those components required for regression testing, and scope of regression testing was defined and discussed during our meetings with a supervisor, and I always knew my scope of regression testing. And for some components, if required for regression testing, and we didn't have test cases, I retested it running or using exploratory type of testing. This is how it's supposed to be done. What is bug life cycle? This is general question. Don't forget that we had weekly bug review meeting to discuss, to clarify some bug report related issues. Some issues we updated bug report statuses and so on. So this is what is related to bug life cycle. Again, create and prepare your own unique but it is very difficult to create unique type of answer for question number 4. For question number 5, example of functionality which is important to test for different mobile devices. First of all, testing for different mobile devices should be clearly identified with what? Okay, it's compatibility or cross-device compatibility testing. For web applications, it's terminology we're using, it's cross-browser compatibility testing. Question number 5 about mobile cross-mobile device compatibility testing. So question number 5 is about mobile compatibility testing for cross mobile compatibility testing requires to make sure that application is compatible with a variety of mobile devices environments. So this is very important to understand. And in addition to that, what we worked or tried to achieve today, we used not only physical device but also emulators created using software development kit, and also you have some experience dealing with Android virtual device built by using Genymotion application. So this is question number 5, but you need to create answer again using your own wording, your own way of expressing and describing your experience. Question number 6, usability defect, very important. And you need, don't forget that for usability issues or defects, it's better not to use usability bug because it's not very professional. Because we studied it, now I believe now you clearly understand that usability defects, it's not it may be result of software bug, but usually usability defects associated with incomplete or poor user experience with application. user experience is the key for usability defect, and it's your choice to pick up at least a couple of usability defects you will be able to give as an example. And don't forget, usability defect don't usability defects don't have expected result, because it may be absolutely, we have different technique to conduct usability testing, and this technique is based on usability criteria we are using to evaluate user experience. All the rest, it's your job to formulate, to create usability defect. Example of automated test case for your study project. Yes, this is sometimes a difficult question, because we didn't do automation, and we are not going to do automation. So this is a very good tip for this question and others. You don't want, or you don't know sometimes how to answer. What I'm going to tell you, but again, use it wisely. You can probably a little bit do it more specific for your situation. It's our I didn't do automation testing for the project because it was out of scope, and period. Stop at this point. It means that, first of all, you're telling the truth. This is the truth. We didn't conduct any and we didn't do any automation. But it's not because you don't know how to do automation or whatever, because it was out of scope. Yes, if they continue asking the questions about automation, you need to tell what you really is up. Either you're interested in automation, you're familiar with automation. This is another story. But in scope of this question, you need to put it in such a way that you didn't do any automation, because it was out of scope. But at the same time, I would suggest you to give example of test case, because what we are, you need to show that you do understand what automation is about, but you didn't do it because it's out of scope. In addition, you can even add that there is I can give you example of test case which would be the first probably candidate for automation. It works nicely. You understand why? Because you would really let them know that you do understand that automation is about automating test cases. So if test case exists, and you give example of test case which would be which can be automated, because not each test case, by the way, can be automated. So this is very important. Think about probably any other ways of answering question 7. Testing procedure. About testing procedure, I told you multiple times that you need to remember that testing procedure was based on assignments. You worked on assignments of different nature, different type, and you give example of a couple of assignments. And all the other questions that more technical or specific to questions we discussed today. And also don't forget that you have a slideshow on mobile technology. Usually there are no many questions on specific mobile technology except those we discussed at the very beginning, such as what is LTE, yeah, I forgot this. LTE stands for difference between 4G, let's say, or 3G and Wi-Fi, and how do you understand internet connectivity, what type of internet connectivities. But basically it's very, very small percentage of questions. That's why you notice that I didn't focus and I didn't spend much time on mobile technology. But now please make sure that you probably you need to write it down, or I can post this questions, additional questions I received just recently, and that's why I didn't accommodate these questions in my handout in this document. And this is from review from manager who conducted interview of our students, and example of questions on this and evaluation of the answers. So I think that I will share this interview questions, or we discuss it next time. We have enough time next time, because actually we finished application testing. Now we are going to work only on interview preparation and refining some points of our project, which would help you to get to present during the interview. So please work with these questions. It would be really very helpful for you, and it will give you some idea and system how to get prepared. In addition to our project, our mobile project interview, mobile project related interview question, I am sharing with you additional questions I collected from students and companies. And you can see that these questions are not related to mobile technology or mobile project. It's more about web applications.